A mother, a teacher, and an author explains the struggles of surviving depression, feelings of suicide, and more in her latest book, The Audacity to Finish. We welcome now writer Laura Eustache Zamor to the show, and we're good to have you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your book. It's called The Audacity to Finish. And,
Yes.
In order to finish, there has to be a start.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the start. And,
Okay.
You were on your way. Had a great college career.
Yes.
And some things happened.
Yeah, some things happened. Unexpectedly, I was coming up towards the senior year of my college career, getting ready, to graduate. You're excited senior. And then all of a sudden, started feeling dizzy, starting to feel like in and out of it a little bit, just started losing my normal behaviors. And then a descent. Mm-hmm. What they would call a spiritual attack, which basically is you're having a disconnect, mm-hmm. is how I explain it, is having a disconnect, wherein that it's not your typical emotional breakdown, mm-hmm. is what they typically give it the name as, but it's not the typical emotional breakdown, because on campus, I never had any prior issues with any mental health issues or things of that nature. So that's kind of the disconnect that started happening to me physically.
Mm-hmm. And so what happens now? Because you're in school, you're a senior, you're set to graduate, then something happens.
Yes. Actually, what happened is my mother, who I have a very close relationship with, everyone who knew me on campus knew I'd be talking to my mom like 20 times a day between RA meetings and all that such. And she started picking up quickly that something was off with me. And she was the one that came up to campus and saw, the state that I was in, that I was, rapidly losing weight, and that I wasn't active, that I hadn't showered, things that were not Laura at all.
Right.
And she was the one that immediately recognized there must be some type of intervention. We have to take you to get examined. We cannot afford to allow all that you've worked hard for these past 3 years to somehow just now evaporate. So I always lean into the fact that there was that type of intervention. It started with my mother, yes.
And so your mom intervenes and
yes.
You get help, and where does it go from there?
Well, I took a period of a break. They call it a withdrawal. I left Binghamton's campus the fall of 2007, and thereby began that process of healing. So a lot of prayer, different types of holistic interventions, just to get me resituated, just to evaluate what was going on. And so 4 years of that, things don't happen overnight. I always tell students that healing does not happen overnight. Mm-hmm. And, we're now in an age where social media and comparison, and students are looking what other students are doing. We're living in this kind of like bubble-esque type of environment where everyone's looking in. So I think that period, that break, the healing process took that long. So it was basically about 4 years, 4 calendar years.
And then you go back.
Yes.
So talk to us about returning back to campus.
It was such a powerful experience, Daren, because I didn't want to go back to Binghamton initially. You leave such a pivotal place in your life. Binghamton for me represented happiness, success, freedom, leadership. There were so many things that I was open to doing. And then having to go back at 25 by myself. Mm-hmm. All of my classmates had long since graduated, and now I'm going back. You enter the mind of a student who's now going back where there's freshmen, and you're now coming to finish that. You're now a reentry student. And so I wasn't ready to go back there, but I strongly believe that my faith, God was like, no, you're going to start, you're going to finish the same place. And that's what happened, fixed the paperwork, presented what I had been doing in my time off, and they accepted me to come back. And I remember coming off of Vestal Parkway and seeing the banner, welcome back, class of 2011, and that was it.
And then you finished. What was it like for you just being able to finish and complete school? Because that was major for you.
Yes, I was crying on campus. My mother was in the front, the passenger side, and when I arrived on campus and seeing that I was going to go through all of that, when I finished, the morning that I woke up for graduation, I said, is this happening? You have all your family members and there's commotion in the apartment, and I was just like, Lord, I'm finished. So it was such a monumental experience for me and my family, all of those that were supporting me on this 4-year journey. They were there with me. And so it was monumental.
And what advice do you give to somebody? Because college is filled with ups and downs. For
Yes.
you had your rocky season
Yes.
at towards the end, but some people enter in. And,
Yes.
and as soon as you come in, you have that.
Right. I mean, the advice I come from a residential life background. I come from a student affairs background. So even as an RA, I was encountering students who were, like you mentioned, coming in with that rocky beginning. I think you have to stay grounded. And there's so many different practices. I advise students to journal, always keep track of your emotions so that you can see when things are changing. Some students I recommend mindfulness or meditation, maybe a walk through nature. Binghamton was a very nature-esque environment. Mm-hmm. So I would always advise students, I'm very, very eminent on self-care. So whatever that looks like for the student, if that's exercising, if it's re-examining your diet, if it's re-examining the company that you keep, that's part of our wellness. So I advise students to take care of themselves. Take care of themselves.
And mental wellness is ultimately a big thing. But when it comes to communities of ethnicity, sometimes it's the last thing that we want to admit because
Absolutely.
It's a challenge. There's a stigma that's associated
Absolutely.
with it. Did you have those same?
Absolutely. And I think what happens is students need to just bridge connection. And I think that was what was so pivotal in writing this story is I want students to understand that they need to move past shame. Whatever cultural community, ethnic community you come from, your story matters because you're human first. And I think that getting past the idea of what people will identify it, is it a spiritual attack? Is it depression? Is it a psychotic break? Whatever. The mission of this is to get students to own their narratives. Mm-hmm. Too many students walk around with shame. Too many students walk around with this, well, I believed in God, and why did this happen to me? They don't understand that it might be just part of a transformative experience in their life. And that's not to downplay the severity. I mean, I remember my own experience, and moving through that is to get students, people, mothers, even parents who might be reading this and saying, oh my gosh, should I be checking in with my child? It's all for awareness. And so I want families, students, mothers to recognize that it's the owning of the narrative. That's what changes the outcome.
So for people who want to get the book, how do they go about getting the book?
It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Mm-hmm. And how long did it take you to write?
Well, I say that it took me about 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I thought that the journey was over once I graduated. But I really believe that God was saying to me, take some time to live because your story's not done yet. And that's what I did. I took some time, got married, had 2 children, and I felt like then it was complete. The journey, that part of my life was now complete, and so I was ready to share. So 5 years, 5 years.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
Laura
me.
Eustache Zamor. Her book is called The Audacity to Finish. We invite you to get it, and as you said, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you can check it out, and of course, you can find out more information. You saw it at the bottom of the screen while she was talking. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
That's an awesome story.
Thank you.
All righty, listen, we're about out of show. Before we get to the end of the show, I want to remember today. Today is the commemoration, the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King in Memphis, Tennessee. We remember Dr. King, the dreamer, and the dream still lives on, one who fought for voting rights, civil rights, and human rights. Today, America and across the world, people remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So in your comings and goings, remember Dr. King. We've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank our guests for joining us and also you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 on Optimum's Channel 67. If you're on Verizon Files, don't worry, we're on 33, or you can catch us anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. For all of us here on the set of Open, I'm Daren Jaime saying take care. God bless. Most of all, keep this channel wide open. Take care.